Advocate Dali Mpofu has been given 5 days to propose disciplinary action that should be taken against him for professional misconduct. And it comes after the Johannesburg Society of Advocates found him guilty of breaching the Lawyers' Code of Ethics at the State Capture Commission. Mpofu was investigated after telling his colleague Michelle le Roux to shut up during a heated argument before the inquiry. He is reportedly planning to appeal that decision. So as a quick reminder of what took place, this is what happened.
Mr. Moyani makes allegations.
Chair, I'm on the floor. Really, I can't stand this. This cannot be happening for the third time. Ms. Le Roux must shut up when I'm speaking.
Well, attorney and legal analyst Benedict Phiri joins us now for some analysis on this situation. Benedict, a very good morning to you indeed. I want to get to the next steps for Dali Mpofu SC in just a moment. But what I want to ask you is, around this appeal that he is now, we're told he is now planning, surely one of his defenses or one of his arguments that he will make is that he didn't directly tell his colleague, Michelle le Roux, to shut up. The quote is, when I am speaking, he says, Chair, I'm on the floor, this cannot happen for the third time, Mrs. le Roux must shut up when I am speaking. So he might argue, I didn't directly tell her to shut up.
Yeah, I think, Michelle, you've got it right on the nail on the head there, because ultimately the rule that is in question here relates to avoiding personal skirmishes and exchanges between counsel in court proceedings or proceedings of tribunals or the commission in this particular instance. So I think the argument that Dali Mpofu will probably raise and bring is that this wasn't a personal exchange, and the exchange was directed through the chair himself. Obviously, the rule seeks to do a lot more, which is in a sense maintain the efficacy of these court proceedings. But certainly that is an argument he'll be bringing around this.
But then in response to that, Benedict, is this letter by the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, which was sent to Advocate Dali Mpofu SC, and it addresses that very issue. It says, and this is according to News 24, quote, it is indisputable that you used intemperate language vis-a-vis le Roux SC by telling her to shut up, whether directly or indirectly.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, and I think it's curious, the words indirectly, right? Because when you look at that particular rule, it speaks to counsel avoiding personal exchanges at all costs. So I suppose the question is, was the exchange via the Deputy Chief Justice at the time, our Chief Justice now, an indirect exchange or an indirect exchange with Advocate le Roux telling her to shut up? I think what adds to the gravamen of this particular situation is you will recall that Acting Chief Justice Zondo then the next day effectively admonished this conduct and said it was disrespectful. He'd never seen it from an advocate or in any other proceedings before, and found it really of the grossest kind in this particular instance. So I think that's what adds to the gravity of this particular situation in this instance.
Benedict, in terms of the reputational damage to Dali Mpofu, this finding against him, how do you see that panning out?
Well, I think there's still a long way to go with the process. Advocate Mpofu is going to appeal, and that appeal must be lodged within 7 days in accordance with the Constitution of the General Council of the Bar. And I think we should just wait and see where the matter ends up. I think it is a fluid matter and it's not straightforward. Insofar as sanction is concerned, the General Council of the Bar has 3 options effectively, which can be just an admonishment, there could be a suspension, and in extreme circumstances there could be an expulsion, which would have to be voted on by the General Council of the Bar. So, I think, his professional reputation will depend on what the outcome eventually of this process is once it's been processed to its finality.
It's the latest in what has been, can we call it a string, or at least a couple of issues that Advocate Dali Mpofu SC has faced over the past few months. This guilty verdict by the JSA coming after the Pretoria Society of Advocates also wrote to the General Counsel of the Bar, this was in February this year, for him to be removed as a commissioner on the JSC following the interview process which it found wanting, the interview process for the next Chief Justice.
Yeah, I think there's certainly, as you're saying, these things are piling up. His conduct on the JSC was under intense scrutiny, particularly in respect of questions that were directed to Judge Mlambo and Deputy Chief Justice Zondo at the time. And certainly we know that he won't be returning to the JSC. He will be replaced as a member of the advocates profession. But I don't think the two are linked. I think, really, there was a question around the heated exchange in the Zondo Commission, which may be explained away given what was happening specifically in those proceedings, and does not necessarily speak to his ability to be a fit and proper person for the profession as a whole. So I think, we must just look at the matters in an isolated way and deal with them accordingly.
Benedict, given the very public nature of what unfolded at the State Capture Inquiry between Dali Mpofu and Michelle le Roux, is there an option here for the two of them to sort this out on the sidelines, or is this now a matter for the JSA?
This is now a matter for, and when he appeals, it will go beyond the JSA. It will go to, the General Counsel of the Bar, which is the umbrella body for advocates. And I think why it's important that this does become ventilated in public, if you recall my earlier sentiments around this goes to the efficacy of the courts, the integrity of the legal process, So if a witness is being told to shut up, I think it's important that the General Counsel of the Bar deals with that, because that goes to the professionalism of the legal profession as a whole. So from my perspective, I certainly would want to see this dealt with decisively by the General Counsel of the Bar or the Legal Practice Council, if it should ever go there as well, and not dealt in private between the two advocates.
Does Dali Mpofu now appeal this? How does the appeals process work in particular, Benedict?
So he has 7 days from receipt of the outcome of the Johannesburg Society of Advocates to then appeal. And the disciplinary proceedings and process that are adopted by the General Counsel of the Bar are actually ad hoc, depending on the nature of the matter that is at hand. So even this question of requesting him to then make representations on sanction is basically determined with respect to what has been looked at as what may be appropriate in the circumstances. So the process will then unfold based on what the General Counsel of the Bar feels is necessary in this particular matter.
So 7 days he has to respond, and I take it it's from yesterday. Counting those 7 days would be from yesterday, since receipt of that decision by the JSC. Benedict Phiri, thanks very much indeed for giving us some perspective, some context to the story. Benedict is an attorney and legal analyst.